Okay.
Okay, hotel family, my name is Brother Ray. We'd like to welcome everyone. Can you hear me, Avery? Loud and clear. My name is Brother Ray. Welcome. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Brooklyn William Mackey Jr. History Club. We meet here every other Wednesday in honor of William Mackey Jr., Louis Ray Rivera, Brother Assad, Gil Noble, El Haj Malik El Shabazz, Dr. Professor Amos Wilson, the late great Attorney Alton Maddox, Minister Khalid Muhammad, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Ivan Van Sertima, Renovo Rashidi, and all the historians who gave up fame and fortune. Miss Leona Maddox. And the thing about Miss Leona Maddox is she had an old car. And Miss Leona Maddox worked in Teaneck, and she drove that car all the way to the United African Movement because she believed in live lectures. She believed in bringing people together. She ate her dinner at the UAM. We never want to forget people like Miss Leona Maddox. Renovo Rashidi, Ivan Van Sertima, Marcus Messiah Garvey, all the historians that sacrificed a lot. You know, they didn't have to do what they did. They could have drunk the Kool-Aid, as Dr. Lewis said. They could have took the money, like all the other people, but they chose to bring information, and that's what it's about, information. They chose to bring information to the people. And that's one of the most important things, because a lot of people don't want to get the right information. I'm reading this book called Committee on 3000, Committee of 300. And the stuff that they're putting in there is unbelievable. If you can get that, the Committee of 300 from the Tavistock Institute, I want to thank Brother Karen for bringing that out. So we're going to bring the camera over here to the Amos collection. And this is to help Brother Sababu to continue the work of Amos Wilson. We got Blueprint for Black Power. We got Black on Black Violence, the psychodynamic of black self-annihilation in service of white domination. We got Amos's latest in honor of Sababu, the psychology of self-hatred and self-defeat toward the reclamation of the African mind. Another Amos classic, the developmental psychology of the black child, which we have to get into a little more. African-centered consciousness versus the New World Order. Issues of manhood in black and white. Awakening the natural genius of black children. Amos's classic, The Falsification of African Consciousness. Louis Ray Rivera, Jazz in Jail. We have Earl Pines, The Unspeakable Bible Verses. Judaism, Christianity, and the Holy Trinity. And S.K. Damian, Distorted Truths, the Bastardization of African Cosmology. So we have these books at the Mackey's Group for support. In honor of my late great friend, Louis Ray Rivera, who I miss very much. Jazz in Jail. And when Professor Mackey left us too soon, Professor Mackey left us, and Louis Ray, he came down and he would speak for hours. And he lived right on Jefferson Avenue, and he would speak, and then we would walk him home, and he would still talk for an hour and a half. So this book is in honor of Louis Ray Rivera. It's another book, Amos's classic Black-on-Black Violence, the psychodynamics of black self-annihilation in service of white domination. And every talking head, Black-on-Black Violence, we doing this, we doing that. When you read Amos's book on Black Violence, and the title is so self-explanatory, the psychodynamics of black self-annihilation in service of white domination. I don't care what nobody says. We're still under the control of white domination. They control all the movements of our lives in some form or fashion. They're doing it right now. So we want to honor Black-on-Black Violence. Now I got some other publications. This is good for the people to purchase and read and get your information. In honor of Big Harold, Brother Harold left us too soon. And he mentioned this book, The Transfer Agreement, the untold story of the secret pact between the Third Reich and Jewish Palestine. And you hear a lot of stuff going on about Gaza, this and that, but this is in honor of Brother Harold, and he left us too soon. But before I go on, give yourself a big hand for the listening audience that came out and supported the Maggie's group. No matter what, they still come out. So we have that. Another publication that I ran across was Dirt, the social history as seen through the views of abusive of dirt. And a lot of people think that the umbrella was created to stop the rain. But in Europe, Europeans was living so bad, they would throw their human feces out of the window because there was no sewer system. And they created the umbrella so they wouldn't get hit in the head with the human feces. Terrence McLaughlin did an excellent job, and this is called Dirt, and we want to thank Professor Mack. Also, in honor of Louis Ray Rivera and Brother Truss Graham, Jews, God, and History. This book is unbelievable. I read it, I've been reading a little bit of it, and a lot of historical facts that's going on just been made up. That's why people come to this country and they start changing their names and changing their identity and becoming Americanized. In honor of Dr. Randy Short, The Impact of Religious Slavery Revealed. We have this book honoring Dr. Randy Short, classic. Dr. Ben, Dr. Prague. Dr. Ben's classic, Black Man of the Nile and His Family. They didn't have too many computers. You zoom in, Linda, and you see how they did the pyramids, the greatest. And Dr. Ben went beyond the call of duty with the time and the naming of the landmass and Apulan, and we want to thank Dr. Ben. The Destruction of Black Civilization, Chancellor Williams. He talks about a lot of the mistakes we made in Africa. A lot of people think, and sometimes I believe, the reason why we can't get it together is because nobody never really went into Chancellor's book and saw that not everything was always great and glory in the continent of Africa and Egypt of those dynastic periods. Chancellor Williams did an excellent job, and there's so many volumes to this where he added more. But not everything was copacetic. The same way now, not everything is copacetic with African people. As you know, you see a lot of Go Quietly or Else, Spiro Agnew, his own story of the events leading to his resignation. And this is an excellent book, Spiro Agnew. The Unspoken Alliance, Israel's Secret Relationship with Apartheid South Africa. This is an excellent book. You You can get it on Amazon. Nobody's going to tell Jeff Bezos what not to sell. He's going to sell whatever he wants, and ain't nobody going to stop nothing. So when you talk about banning books, tell Jeff Bezos what not to sell. And he'll laugh you right in your face. He sells anything he wants. African slavery in Latin America and the Caribbean. Herbert Klein and Ben Benson III. So I picked this up just browsing, and I always browse and find these books, and I pick them up. Ladies and gentlemen, the phenomenon with weed, I just came from the Bronx, a friend of mine, and they smoking it all out. They just smoking and drinking the white man's poison and smoking this weed, and ain't nobody hungry. In the old days, you smoked a joint and all you did was laugh and wanted something to eat. This ain't, I don't know what this is, but whatever they got out there is doing us in. And I want to thank Brother Lyndon because he has a picture of George Soros, the brains behind the legalization of marijuana. George Soros is behind it. You got to read the book. Lyndon LaRouche wrote the book. But when you read this book, you'll see who's behind it. Everybody, there's a lot of people getting into this weed and it ain't stopping. They giving us weed. And I was walking down the street today, and let me tell you, white boy was smoking it, right walking down Bedford Avenue like it wasn't nothing. George Soros, get this book and you'll find out. Not only that, the British opium drug wars, how we start getting strung out in America during the Black Power movement, how the Irish got strung out over dope, the Chinese. So listen, there's a whole lot of stuff. Without sanctuary, this is photography of lynching in America. Reparations, everybody's talking about it. Everybody's hoping, but this is the pictures of blacks being hung in Mississippi. The postcards, the hangings, the people would bring food. Brother being fried. And all you hear, here's a Wrightsville, Georgia, stringing the guy up, one of our own. And they got to have another study. Study what? Study what? Study what? They bringing it up now just for people to get the book for certain people, reparations. Guess what I wind up finding? It's called Our Gang. Jewish crime and the New York Jewish community from the 1900s to the 1940s. You got to know the history about crime. Meyer Lansky, Waxy Gordon, Herman Bensky, Rothstein, Jim the Blood, Horowitz, Louis Lepkitz, Legs Diamond, Arnold Rothstein, Mother Rosa Hurst. And see, we come up and we take the names of these Italian gangsters and we never want to read the book and see how they study. Causes unknown. Causes unknown. The epidemic of sudden death in 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. And this has the pictures of the people dying all of a sudden on the football field. Young, healthy. Edward Dow. Strong, young men. All of a sudden collapsing. If you really want to get an information on why it's happening, get Edward Dow's book. If you watched the Democratic National Convention and you saw Barry Santoro, aka Barack Obama, and all the people with these speeches, I want to thank Wayne Mansfield, the manufacturing of a president, the CIA in searches of Barack Hussein Obama into the White House. And they're getting ready to, the Manchurian candidate, and they're getting ready to bring in another Manchurian candidate. And she's running for president right now. But in order for you to understand what's going on and how you're being tricked, it's a book. Read, and it'll tell you about what's going on. I want to thank Wayne Mansfield. Capitalism on a ventilator, the impact of COVID in China and the US. And if you understand what's going on, they got the Birdman coming out, and they also got the monkey coming out. And they also got 54 million so-and-so, so-and-so. So, you got to understand what's going on. In my opinion, the only person that cared about the people of Georgia, and they just had a big convention down there getting people to vote. Cynthia McKinney, when China sneezes from the corona lockdown to the global political economic crisis. And it was said that Soros basically controls the Democratic Party. Donald Trump mentioned when he was running how the U.S. creates shithole countries. Well, this is a book edited by Cynthia McKinney. So when you listen to Donald Trump make these statements, the book says how the U.S. creates shithole countries. So instead of talking about an individual making a statement that might sound like so-and-so, so-and-so, Cynthia McKinney did an excellent job on who's behind a shithole country. The man behind the curtain, inside the secret network of George Soros and the Shadow Party. How Soros and Hillary Clinton in the 60s, radical seized control of the Democratic Party. So when I say that Soros controls the Democratic Party, if you got a problem, talk to David Horowitz and Richard Poe. Last week, Dr. Scott Whitaker's classic, Medicine, the Causes and Solutions to the Disease of Malnutrition. Dr. Scott Whitaker did an excellent job. This book tells you about whole foods and the vegan phenomenon and all the stuff coming out. I want to thank Dr. Scott. We have this book and it's readily available online. You can buy it. Presidential candidate Robert Kennedy, who's getting my vote. The Wuhan cover-up, the terrifying bioweapons arms race. Rand Paul, and this is a senator. And if you looked at the congressional hearings when he was doing the congressional hearings, Rand Paul did an excellent job asking certain questions to an individual, the Fauci. Deception, the great COVID cover-up, Rand Paul. Because they're getting ready to come out with something again. Another classic by Robert Kennedy and Brian Hoover, Vax versus Unvax, Let the Science Speak. You better start reading these books because the Birdman is on the way and the pop is back. And you hear it, so you better start reading because ain't nothing going nowhere. The Real Anthony Fauci and the Truth About COVID-19, Exposing the Great Reset. Dr. Joseph McCullough, edited. We want to thank Ayo Kamati, the Irritated Genie. They had the Straight Black Bride who on their rising convention in Baltimore at the Terror Cafe. Excellent. I missed it, but I worked word on the street. I wouldn't be good before. So we want to salute Ayo Kamati with his blockbuster, Jews Are the Problem 1, and his second classic, Jews Are the Problem 2, The Psychology of the Jew. This is Ayo Kamati, and we have these books for our people that come down, and you can get it at www.jewsaretheproblem.com. Born the Horizon. Thank you, Irritated Genie. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to read a few announcements for the community and the people that want more information, educational. Blockbuster, the hottest show on the East Coast. Thorough Black Talk. Tag, Keisha, Ashe, Brother Black, and Sister Marcia. That comes on every Thursday, 8 o'clock on Facebook, YouTube. Excellent show. Our Philadelphia connection with Sister Empress Chi and the Million Women's March. Blog Talk Radio every Saturday at 10 p.m. 1319-527-6189. And funny thing about Philadelphia, I was down in Philly and they got the big Prince Hall Masonic Temple down there. And we went on a tour and the guy let us in. And the first pictures that you saw when you went into and anybody could go on Market Street. The first pictures we saw George Washington, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama right in the Prince Hall. There's a big building on Market Street where they started at. It's open, anybody can go down there and check it out. Ladies and gentlemen, Ayo Kamati, the irritated genie, he comes on every Monday at 10 o'clock, Sankofa Revolutionary Radio with Anthony Mohammed, that's WSYP 95.1, Birmingham, Alabama, and you can actually log on to the program and the irritated genie is laying it out and you can call in and ask any kind of questions about the book. Anything you don't like, you can say it and ask him. He's right there and he'll answer any question you want. So this way you ain't got to be worried about nothing. Our Power Pack brother out of Baltimore. He's a bad brother and he spoke at the convention. Darren Muhammad, State of the City. He comes on Saturday, 12 o'clock on Instagram, TuneIn Radio, and Spreaker, and it comes on Facebook Live and Instagram. I call him the Powerhouse. Darren Muhammad, he comes on Wednesday, sometimes he comes on Thursday, Wednesday, but the Saturday program is excellent. You have to tune in, just go into State of the City, Baltimore, Darren Muhammad. I want to thank Darren for letting Jeannie use the Terra Cafe, and they got some fish and french fries down there, but we're going to make it down there again. Just some things happening, we couldn't get it. Ladies and gentlemen, every Tuesday at 7 o'clock, Your Immunity Project and California Radio with Dr. Aline. Dr. Aline comes on every Tuesday, Your Immunity Project, and he is laying it out with all this information that we're going to need. I want to thank Dr. Aline, and he comes back Thursday on California Radio, and he's also going to be on WSYP, Sankofa Revolutionary Radio, but you got to listen to Dr. Aline. All right, the African Echo Study Group, Brother Trust Graham, and Brother True and Danny and them, out of Newark, New Jersey, every Friday, 8 o'clock, you have the study group. Trust Graham and them is doing the psychology of self-hatred or the reclamation of the African mind. Not only do they give you the Friday business, they come back in the Know Thyself study group out of Asbury Park with Brother True and the gang. They are doing Chancellor Williams, the destruction of black civilization. Trust Graham is the moderator of that group, so they give you a Friday night and a Saturday morning doubleheader. Ladies and gentlemen, the Simultap organization with Dr. James McIntosh, who's our keynote speaker with Richard Dean Theodore and Betty Dobson, the program has changed. So it's hard to remember. It comes on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock, not Wednesday, so we got to get used to it. And he had Brother Shep. I want to thank Dr. Mack, Brother Shep, in the political prisoners program that he did, and I got to give him, Dr. Mackey used to say, we need long distance runners. And Brother Shep is doing an excellent job on holding political prisoners. And I remember Deruba, who grew up in the Bronx, and he came to the UAM, and he said, political prisoners do hard time. And he said they would keep the windows open in the wintertime. A political prisoner is not like a regular prisoner. Let's get that thing first. Political prisoners they're not regular. Of course, the system knows. And that's why they can't have them with the population, because they might wake everybody up. So I want to thank Brother Shep and the Minefield program, WBAI, 10 o'clock. Make sure you tune in. It takes a little while to get it. You can view all the lectures of the Brooklyn William Mackey Jr. African Helping African Study Series here or on YouTube. Go over every lecture, whatever you don't believe. You go through it, you do your research, you read your books, whatever you don't like, whatever the speakers say, you read it, you do what you want, but you could always go back and do your research on it. So that's community events that we have. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Good Times was always one of our best. We watched it. James Evans, man, he wasn't no joke as a black man, and grow that program. And they have came out with one of the disgusting cartoons depicting that movie and degrading. So one of the problems is that everybody is running around talking about reparations. We want to get reparations. If you can't stop the media in Hollywood from disrespecting us in these movies and portraying us as buffoons, birth of a nation, drug dealers and this and that, and just degrading us, if you can't stop them from doing that, hell, you think they're going to give us some money? It ain't gonna happen, because you can't even stop them from disrespecting us on the screen that goes all over the globe. They're still showing Birth of a Nation in blackface. So all y'all running around talking about reparations, all right. If you can't stop them from disrespecting you in the media and how they portray us, if you think they're gonna give you something, you dream. Ladies and gentlemen, the Mackey's group wanted to give Dr. Mack the floor so he could bring in more information on Netflix, and they have some black folks down with it. The ones that you think care about you while they live a whole different life. They care nothing about you. So ladies and gentlemen, give a great big hand, and we're gonna let them rock. Simultac, the Committee to Eliminate Offensive to African People. Give Dr. James McIntosh a great big hand, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, should I sit or stand? I hope you don't mind letting the old guy. So, brothers and sisters, why don't we pull in a little closer? Because it's a small crew that we have here. Let's pull in a little closer so that we can have a conversation, more so than a speech. CMOTAP, as brother said, stands for the Committee to Eliminate Media Offensive to African People. And our mission basically is stated in our name. We need CMOTAP to be stronger. But for CMOTAP to be stronger, our community has to be stronger.
That's correct.
Let's take a look at two different ethnicities and the responses. We remember that when Kyrie Irving simply tweeted a link to a movie that the Jewish community or some of their organized community and their spokespeople said was an anti-Semitic book. He tweeted a link to a movie based on that book, and it was as though all hell had broken loose. All you could see on the news was attacks on Kyrie and attacks on the rapper. Starts with Kanye West. So, in the middle of that, the of the Nets, the team, right, owner of the Nets, his name is Tsai, T-S-A-I, an Asian man. He said that the Nets were going to pay a fine. They were going to pay a donation to to causes against hate. And pretty much the news was reporting that it was the ADL, of $500,000. And the initial report said that Kyrie was going to be fined $500,000. You know how much money that is? That's $500,000. A couple of years before, in 2021, a player used the word kike while playing a video game. He was playing a video game and he used that word. The fine for him was $50,000. So that word is supposed to be like the nuclear bomb of slurs as far as they're concerned. As far as the Jewish community is concerned, when you use that word, that's supposed to be like the nuclear bomb. And yet, this man was fined $50,000. It's not because, I just want to point out the difference now. Remember, Michael Jackson had made a record that he put out. And in it, he used that word. He didn't use that word speaking against Jewish people. He actually used that word in a record he was making against hate and against bigotry and whatever other kind of words you want to use. But their community is so well organized that anything that, it's not even anti-Semitism that they fight now. They fight anything that hints of what they call anti-Semitism. And I don't want to get into the semantics of the word. Professor Clark taught me that the word doesn't even really stand for racist. It has to do with language groups. That there are language groups, and Semitic is one particular language group. Nevertheless, power is the ability to define reality and have others respond to it as if it were their own. So you can say all you want, that it doesn't mean Jewish people. For them, they say it means Jewish, and they make the rest of the world respond to it in that way. They made the owner of the Nets, ostensibly, respond to it $500,000 worth. Now, I just put that out there to show you the difference in the organization of our community, to show you the difference in the value of your good name that one community is able to demonstrate. Our community may feel as strongly about our name, but we're not able to stop it. We don't have the power to define the reality and say, I am not the N-word. You can say you're not the N-word, but they have all the evidence that you are. The way they have the evidence that you are is all they got to do is play the top 10 rap records. They play the top 10 rap records and you can hear it and everything. You can go to an NBA game and they will play the records with the N-word right in the middle of the game. You can go to a college game from a historically black college with black players playing, and they'll play records in the middle with the N-word. Power is the ability to define reality and have others respond to it as if it were their own. So the fundamental problem that we're dealing with as a community is not necessarily people using the N-word, it's not this, it's not that, it's a difference of power. When you don't have power, then when you don't use power, the power we have to pull together is a collective power. It's the power of unity. Marcus Garvey said that, if you know yourself and know that within you is a power that is absolute, something that you can't, that overnight we would have a nation, an empire, irrespective of what the world thinks. Unfortunately, we're not that community yet. We've got so many divisions that when one person says, if I say, listen, we got to do something about this Netflix trailer, they're calling black people an N-word. They are ridiculing black people who stop worshiping white Jesus and start worshiping a black Jesus. They make fun of the white Jesus, then they make fun of the black Jesus. They have in that trailer for the Netflix cartoon Good Times, they have black Jesus answering people's prayers with a cell phone, and he answers it just like the old Mantan Moreland movies used to do. Mantan Moreland, they used to say, who that? Who that say who that when I say who that? You know, he'd be afraid of some, those were the, so this one says, who this? And a black hand hands him the cell phone from up, so that's supposed to be, I guess, supposed to be God. And then the hand has a lavender fingernail and a turquoise fingernail. I leave it to you to discern the things they're saying about black people's spiritual reality, which they created. I mean, not our real spiritual reality, but I'm saying the basic way that we try to stay in touch with the divine is something that they imposed on us. They imposed on us, and then they ridicule us for accepting it and take it and project all kinds of other agendas. Why is it that CMOTAP doesn't do for our community what the ADL does for the Jewish community? If you hint at anti-Semitism, and sometimes they go to the person and ask them to renounce. Do you renounce such and such? If the person doesn't renounce, then they label them, and then they pillory them, and then they have the power to go at these people's jobs, to go at their licensures, to go at their reputations, to go at everything. Now, what's the difference? I tell you to do this. There's a site called GuideStar, in which you can look up the finances of any not-for-profit organization. If you look up Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith, you will see Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith and several other spin-offs. And a couple of them have both assets in the hundreds of millions of dollars, not a million, not 10 million, $100 million, and receipts, okay? So you're talking about the difference between an organization that has a building and maybe $10,000 to $20,000, you know what I'm trying to say, in cash receipts for the year, and the difference in effectiveness at defending their community is not that. I think we've done a good job over time. We bankrupted the New York Post with our Ghostbusters campaign. We got Bob Grant and Jay Diamond moved off of ABC with our campaign against hate radio. But it's like, and I hate to use their mythology, it is David versus Goliath, okay? It's David versus Goliath. So let's get to this Good Times thing. What's wrong with it? There are basically 7 basic messages. I'll try to give you 5 or 6 just off the top of my head. If you look at that trailer, which is a 5-minute trailer to the show Good Times, this new show Good Times, they basically give you these messages. They tell you that black people are ugly. They tell you black people are stupid. They tell you that black people have nothing sacred which you're bound to respect. That was what I was telling you about just now. They tell you that our struggle for, and if you're struggling for freedom, justice, and equality, is a joke. They tell you that we are violent and criminal from birth, and we should be killed. This trailer gives you those messages. It also gives you the message that we are rude, crude, hypersexual. I think that's probably about 6 I gave you. Let's go to how they do it. In the first opening scenes of that trailer, you see the son. You remember the structure of the family in Good Times. They had a father, they had a mother, they had a brother, they had 2 brothers and 1 sister. The big brother was JJ, the younger brother was Michael. His name is Michael Evans. He's named after one of the founders of the series. The two founders were Michael Evans, in real life, Michael Evans and Eric Monty. Eric Monty had to struggle with Norman Lear for 3 years, he said, in order to get him, and with all these sitcoms he was putting on, the Jeffersons, the this, that, to show a complete black family. Well, the Jeffersons probably came after, but you know, those other ones, All in the Family, all those other things he was doing. But to show a complete black family, they didn't even want to do that, but they did. When they did, you remember the mother had natural hair. I think originally even the daughter, Thelma, had natural hair. JJ, you know, you didn't usually see him without his hat, but he certainly didn't have no a process or Marcel or anything like that. And little Michael was the militant one of the family, and he certainly had an afro. This new trailer has the same kind of family structure. You got a bigger brother, you got a younger brother, you got a sister, you got a mother, and you got a father. The mother has straightened blonde hair and a bob haircut. The father looks like a gorilla. I'm not saying this to, you know, I'm saying if you take, and that's what I feel bad about, is because I don't have my pictures with me today, but I'll just tell you. If you take the cartoon character of McGill the gorilla and put it next to this guy's face, you see it's almost the same template. I don't know if they use the same cartoon template for it. The younger brother is a baby, literally a baby, and he's been put out the house and is selling drugs on the street. He's selling drugs on the street. He's got a blonde, looks like a Jerry girl, right? And then the daughter, she's supposed to be the militant one in this one. And you know, I can't describe her hairstyle because I don't really know what it is. And then there's the brother who has an unusual hairstyle also, but I can't tell you what it is. In the opening scenes, the brother and the sister are having a banter with each other. And the sister says she has an announcement. He says to her, is it that you're going to get an insurance payment for your face or something along those lines. Something along those lines. You know, in other words, you're going to get some disability payment for your face. What's the message there? Black people are ugly. The father says, can you really get that? What's the next message? Black people are stupid. Is that right? So then he says, can you really get that? And the daughter responds to the brother. This is coming from a guy, she says, who sits every morning staring for a certain period of time at a milk carton. And he says, well, it says on the bottle, concentrate. All right, it says on the box, concentrate. So they've given you the messages that we're stupid. They've given you the messages that we're ugly. And then the father says really one of the most vile lines in the entire little 5 minutes. This is all happening within 5 minutes. In that trailer. The father says, because the boy, when he says that, who the dummy now? He says, you know, it says on the bottle, concentrate, who the dummy now? All right. And the father says, me, for not wearing a condom when you were born. A father says to his children, what did he tell them? He told them they were nothing. They were nothing. That I should have worn a condom when you were. So he's vile, he's stupid, they've told they're disrespectful and rude to each other, and he just told you that really you should be killed before birth. That's what the father just said. Later scenes, you see the blonde-haired baby sell drugs to a white guy who gets into a car with a voluptuous black woman. Voluptuous, with blonde hair and a blouse that goes down and shows some of the areola. Now, breasts really wouldn't be sexual in, you know, our original culture necessarily. But in this culture, they're painting her as one, she's with this European who just brought some drugs. You can just figure the rest from that. All of these are both overt and subliminal messages that have been sold to you. So then they told you what? We're criminal from birth. The baby is criminal from birth. In later scenes, I told you the scenes of, they have a picture of the white Jesus just guarded on the floor, and then the woman's praying to a black Jesus, you say, well, look, she's making steps, she's making steps. However, they ridicule the black Jesus and they ridicule the black God. Then, in this trailer, in a total non sequitur, something that doesn't make any sense, they flash through a museum, and who do you see? You see the image of Yenapu, ancient African god, in the middle of this vile cartoon. See, this is diabolical stuff that's going on here. Now, don't anybody run out here and say that Dr. McIntosh said the white man is the devil. I did not say the white man is the devil, because I went to school, I got an education. The devil is a man in a little red suit with a long tail that lives way down in the ground. You'll buy that and you'll believe it on Monday morning. Beth Meyerson is going to have a baby for Ed Koch. And that's not going to happen because both of those people are dead, right? Okay. So now, where did this, let's go into some of the people that went into this thing. We have Ted Sarandos, I think that's his name, Ted Sarandos. He's a white man married to a black woman. And so, you say, how do you put a movie like this and you're supposed to be married to a black woman? I'm saying, what does she think? So in Simotap's first open letter to the CEO, because he was the CEO, now they say he's a co-CEO with another guy, Reed Hastings, I believe it is. And in this movie, as a compliment, it's what's supposed to be a compliment to a black woman in the same trailer that I'm talking about. Understand, this is not the series. This is the trailer to the series. This is the part that says, hey, you should watch this because this is the good stuff. They have her, I believe she spent the rent money on clothing. And when she's walking down the street, as a compliment, the people on the street say to her, you look like money, bitch. Okay. See, they teach us all of these rude and dumb things. They select from us the rudest and the stupidest, and they promote them and make them the greatest on their media. They make them the heroes and the sheroes. I remember that when people used to play basketball, if a guy fell down, a guy from the other team would reach down and pull him up. Okay? He would pull him up. They taught good sportsmanship, they said, in all the sports. When you went to school, they teach you good sportsmanship, and that would be held up to you. Now it's held up if somebody stands over somebody, takes the stance of a gorilla, and stands over them and steps over them and all that kind of stuff. So they're teaching you that. They're teaching you that because they're the ones that are in control of enforcing which rules they're going to enforce and not. I can remember that when black men used to run and make a touchdown, not at anybody in particular, they would take that ball and spike it. That was too much for them. Yeah. They made that unsportsmanlike, conduct. They started, and I remember when Kareem Jabbar, at the time he was Lou Alcindor, when he was taking it and dunking the ball, as soon as he got to college, they made the rules no dunking. And they kept it for just about the same time that he was in college and got out. So my point is that they teach us to be stupid. They teach us to be rude. They teach us to be criminal, in fact. All of the movies. The movies would be like what Sigmund Freud, is that his name? Sigmund Freud, right? Yeah, Sigmund, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. To think I would know that, after going to school for 28 years to become a psychiatrist, and
which was a film?
or Sigmund, they told me. I'm sorry. All the time, all this while, I thought it was Sigmund based on the stuff I was reading. Okay. So anyway, Sigmund Freud tells you that dreams, when you dream, not when you have a nightmare, when you have a dream, it's wish fulfillment. That if you interpret the things that are happening in that dream symbolically, it will tell you like the kinds of things that you want and that you do. You should view white media productions, movies, as the same thing. You should view them as the same thing. See, it wasn't that Freud was, I think, relatively scientific, and I think he was correct. If you want to understand European people, read him. I think he's got them down to a T. He lived at a certain period of time, and the big thing was sex at that particular time, so a lot of his stuff was sexual, but it still fits today. So if you look at a movie, and I looked at 2 yesterday that just were on in the background, and both of them I looked at it, and you can see the black man got killed, okay? They want to kill us, okay? They lust after the black woman. So the black woman was, you know, and they would have her be the aggressor in those things. So all of this is their fantasy. This is their fantasy, this is their wish. But the bad thing about it is that they have the power to turn the fantasy into reality. So if you look, almost every character in the movie, if you look at every movie, if they have a character, a man, that is not masculine, it'll be a black man. You can have, I saw one where they had a family gathering, the people come for Christmas. Everybody comes for Christmas. Everybody comes with their girlfriend, their wife, their what, and the black man who looks, you know, he comes, and who is he waiting for? He's waiting for another man. What am I saying? I'm saying that Europeans reveal what they want for us. Francis Cress Welsing went through a whole thing explaining what that was about. Why is it that they want feminine black men? Why is it that they want powerless black men? Why is it that they lust after their mother? Because Africa is the mother of humanity. And these were people that were in various religions. They will tell you they were driven out. Science, the religion of science says no. The sun caused them to be this way, and this is why they're separated from their family. You know, I mean, it's Grimaldi man, I think this happened with, right? Am I right, brother? I see Brother Lewis out here in the audience. But it was saying that, you know, when they went north and so on and so forth, that you didn't have as much sun. So they had to now have something that allowed the sun to go in more. I mean, this is my understanding of it, or my recollection of it. You have the Nation of Islam tells you that a scientist, you know, took the brown germ, the black germ, and made it brown. You know, all of these things are religions. You know what I mean? And if you look at various religions, they tell you that they were either driven out, or you know, either by nature, the sun, or by people. So that Frances Welsing, in one of her papers, in the ISIS papers, she tells you that they lust their mother. You know, they long for their black mother. Africa is the black mother of the European. And if you look at their movies and you look at that way, and I remember that I saw a long time ago, because when your eyes get opened up, you start looking at things. You can be in a room with people looking at it, and you'll be wondering, how in the hell are they watching this and don't seem to be upset by it? Black people look at television, see themselves insulted, see themselves assaulted, see their sacred things defiled, see their babies defiled, see the promotion of all the things that are destroying their community, and they don't seem to mind. If they see the actors from these movies, they run over to them like they're great big things. They see the people who write these movies, and what do? They play with your mind. They equate power. What's power? Okay, is power going to school, starting your own business, starting a charity for, you know, cleaning up your community? Is power fighting the people who are killing you in your community? Is power? No. Power is selling drugs. Right? Isn't that what the television is telling you? Yep. All of this is, so you take the different ethnic groups in the city, everybody's got a niche. All right? You know, I won't even name the ethnicities. Y'all can probably name them. If you start talking about construction and cement work and waste removal, that's one ethnicity. If you start talking about, I didn't say it. Y'all can beat me, you can't beat this guy back here. But you can't beat me either quite. But you got education, that's another group. Okay. might got Zoom bomb, man. That tells me, I was wondering if I was doing a halfway decent job, and that tells me if they Zoom bomb, that means I'm doing a good job.
Believe in America when we share common ground and common cause and one common destiny. If you believe in America,
I think
if
it's
you
might
love
burned
America,
in.
then you will work for America. And when we work together, when we stand together, when we organize together, when we vote together, I will tell you this, when we fight, we win.
I'm glad he said that. When we fight, we win. That's correct. That's not a Zoom bomb.
No, he's listening to a program. 974, can you mute yourself?
Listen,
You can do it if you have.
I got it.
Listen, Liv, you got questions, you wait till.
I got it.
I know it was.
He said, if I have questions?
No, tell them, if anybody has.
No, he was listening to a program, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I was telling you that they basically, but at the time I think it was going through different ethnicities and these different, okay. So in the city, you know, in corrections, you know, you might have, you know, okay. But in general, what's left for us, if you take the fire department, the police department, again, you're talking about other ethnicities. You're not talking about us, you're talking about other ethnicities. And what do they show for us? Represents power, is drugs. You're still under other people who, you know, can, okay, but you know, you're a big shot because you can sell a lot of drugs and get some money. One day I was in my car, and actually an inmate had said to me one time, I did a fellowship in public and community psychiatry at Rikers, and the brother told me, he said, you know, he started describing to me how that sometimes he would, if he rolled through something devastating in our community, he said it would bring tears to his eyes. And he basically felt that that was like a sign that you had care, or you cared, or something like that. And I think it's true because it's happened to me. I've been driving along and I see something, I'm not able to fix it, I'm not able to do anything about it, and it just makes the tears well up in your eyes, okay? And on this particular day, I looked, and there were some brothers like just basically wasting their lives, standing on the corner doing, you know, dumb stuff, whatnot. And I got that feeling. And then all of a sudden, I looked to my left, and a fire truck pulled up. And I looked on that fire truck. And when I looked on that fire truck, I saw, he said, how do you know? I saw white people from Long Island. I saw white boys with crew cuts from Long Island. Now, how do I know they were from Long Island? Right here. Third eye. I'm telling you, I looked, I know what I saw. I saw them, and then it hit me. I said, they're on that corner there because they're not on that truck. They're on that corner because they're not on that truck. They're not driving the garbage truck. They're not teaching in the schools. They're not teaching. Everyone has a piece of this so-called pie, and us, they give the filth. They give the waste. They give the dregs. They give the dung. That's what they give to us. And why do the other people have stuff? Other people have stuff because in certain things, they're willing to die or kill to have those things. A friend of mine, I can say his name now because, you know, his name is Mike. Mike had a little takeout restaurant on one side of the street before I ever got there, you know, to that neighborhood. But my wife knew him from then, and then later came, we had another little restaurant on the other side of Flatbush Avenue. And, you know, we knew him, he had part was a takeout, we had a little, you know, we started talking. And eventually he got like a banquet hall kind of. And what a lot of people don't know is that a banquet hall, you can't do that without friction from other communities. When St. Albans Congregational Church built that place you come to, the Family Life Center. After it got all done, they all of a sudden came and said that all the codes were wrong. They had to dig up the street. They had to tear this up and tear that up, so on and so forth. And so I had that in my mind. I knew that in the back of my mind. When Mike opened the new place that was like big enough to have like functions, like weddings and stuff, the first wedding he got, the DEP was there. They had torn the sidewalk up and they turned the water off. For that, particular spot. Mike was quick thinking. He hadn't yet given up the smaller spot he had. So he ran down there, he went to the hardware store, he got water hoses. And he ran those hoses to the place, and if people came in, they had to step over foolishness, but it went off and within a few months, he had made enough money to really cover the expenses of the place, and he kept that place until the day that he died. But even before this, he told me a story of when he first came. He was always thinking, do for self. So when he opened up his first little spot, he's got to get rid of his garbage. He's going to go to a brother that's got a truck. He goes to the brother who's got a truck and says, look, I got this much of garbage, I give you this. The brother would come, and all of a sudden, a guy came to him and he told him, he said, you can't do this. He said, what? He says, you can't have somebody else take your garbage. I take care of all the garbage on this street. And he says, Mike really wasn't understanding. He was saying like, well, what do you mean? So when the guy told him, you know what I mean? He told him, get the F out of my store. So he said, the guy left. In a little while, the guy with the truck wouldn't come anymore. Mike got the phone book. He called all kinds of places. Nobody would come there. He said, James, do you know that I had to call the same Mary Farmer that I threw out of my store to come and get the garbage? Back to my point. In psychiatry, we have degrees of thought disorder. So if you go beat around Robin Hood's barn and you come back to circumstantial, that's not as bad as if you're tangential. When you're tangential, you go off and you never come back. When you have loosening of associations, your next thought doesn't have anything to do with the previous story, okay? So if you put in a hospital, if I was tangential or if I'm circumstantial, I came back. I come back to the point I was making the different ethnicities having their niche. But they have us in the niche of the criminality and all that kind of stuff. So, in short, this Netflix trailer and ostensibly, presumably the series, and from everything I've heard the series, because immediately I canceled my Netflix. This was too much. They had the babies shooting babies, and what I would do to show people was show them a chart from a newspaper where they had 21 people killed, young people killed in New York, that picture, and I put that next to the picture of babies killing each other. You really got babies killing each other. This is not funny. This wasn't 21 people killed that year, this is 21 babies killed that year, all under 18 killed that year. How are you going to laugh at that? All right? So, the media is violent. It portrays us as criminals. It hurts us on another level. It hurts us on the level of that media influences behavior. Media influences behavior. If you keep showing young people that the only way they can have power is selling drugs, they will come to believe that they can sell drugs. If you keep showing black people that when another black man falls on the ground and y'all are just playing a friendly game, that you should be aggressive and insulting and demeaning about it. And what do? They do it out on the court. They do it on the real court in their neighborhood. And when they do it on the real court in their neighborhood, you combine that with guns, that really to be a man, you gotta have a gun, so on and so forth. And you have, they create the appetites, they create the concepts, they create the limitation of vision, they create all of that, and then they blame you for it, and then they lock you up for it. So this little movie is a prescription for genocide. It works the other way. Cosby, the person that they pilloried, that show that he did where you had the children all trying to go to a historically black college where the parents were professionals and good concepts or good manners and stuff were being promoted and taught. They say that more black kids started going to the historically black colleges than any other period. So you can do it the other way. When they find out, they're going to stop it. You know, if accidentally they let on their media something that is going, and they do that often because they're not the supreme being. They're not the universe. They're not the creator. They make mistakes. Initially, they thought people were going to be turned off when they told them about Malcolm X. They put the movie on, The Hate That Hate Produced.
Right.
And they found out black people loved it. They went looking for this. I want to see this guy. You know, black people. When they showed you the Black Panthers and they showed you, they thought black people were hard. No, black people said, I want to join. You know, I want to join. So when they make those mistakes, they very quickly fix them. So you won't see that more. They announced that the Panthers were here, and then they announced that they were dead, that they were gone. All right? So they make mistakes sometimes. But that's the purpose of their media. The purpose of their media is wish fulfillment. A guy named Leah King Samaj said, a television is a microscope into the mind of the European. You gotta just think about it and then go and see, is that true? And it is. They're not, as they do these things, they're not telling you about you yet. They're telling you about them. The creator of the media is telling you about them. This is who they are. So, media. I'm going to jump now. I've left Netflix just for a little while. They had a thing that happened in Israel this past week or so. I don't know if you all realize it, where security footage was leaked, and it showed IDF members gang raping a Palestinian patient, a Palestinian prisoner. The Minister of Finance initiated an investigation. Not against the people who did it. Who leaked the video? That's the investigation. When they tried to do anything like question the IDF members, the people rioted. They came and they said, no, don't bother, this is not. And then when they asked them, they said, well, look, do you think that you can do this or you can do that? Anything you do, they said, to Hamas, they said, it's okay. Now, where does that come from? Because in Nick, no, I better stop, just because I'm going to stop right here because I don't want to go too far astray. But very often, when people make accusations of stuff that is questionable or may not have happened, because I remember that when the raid came, I'm never going to say that didn't happen or this didn't happen because I wasn't there. But when that October raid came from Hamas, right away, they were saying people have been raped and all this type of stuff like that. And I said, well, you know, on that kind of a raid, usually you got to get in there and get out. You know what I'm trying to say? That would be different. I wouldn't say it couldn't happen. Nobody would say it didn't happen. But people were expressing skepticism. Mm-hmm. And so people were saying, you know, I mean, so basically say, well, where's that coming from? Why immediately, you know, before you, because this was like right away. So now where does this come from? A lot of stuff that you may see as new craziness is old craziness. If you look at Genesis chapter 19, 1 through 11, 1 through maybe longer than that, maybe longer, I can't say, maybe 1 through 9, 1 through 11, but certainly in Genesis 5 is one of the key parts. You have one of the heroes, Lot, who's in his house. Well, first he sees some angels, and he talks to them, and begs them to come to his house and, so that he can be hospitable toward them. They come to the house, and when they come to the house, it said all the men of Sodom and Gomorrah came around and said, send those guys out so that we may know them. They don't even know like you mean know. The newer versions say so that we can have sex with them, rape them. And Lot says, my friends, these are his friends. He says, my friends, please, I implore you, don't do this terrible thing. And then he doesn't win the award for Father of the Year because he says, I have 2 daughters that have not known men. I got 2 virgin daughters. Take them and do with them what you will, right? But don't do this terrible thing. Now you got layers and layers of sickness and evil. But the next one might be the worst. Lot is, like I said before, he don't win Father of the Year. Take my daughters, do with them what you will. Just don't do this thing. The guys say, no, send them out. And now we're going to the next level, okay? They don't even want a woman, okay? They want to do this thing. That's the Bible, all right? That's the Bible. So they protested, people protested, and lots of their citizens, the right wing especially, their citizens, are saying anything you do, torture, anything, is okay. All right? And I guess the first thing they suspect, if you have some of their captives, is that you're torturing them. And I don't say that, I don't know what happened, I wasn't there. But I'm saying it's interesting that that's the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay? Because very often when people take hostages, they're careful not to harm the hostages. The hostages are a bargaining chip for what you want to get. I can't say I wasn't there. But I'm telling you that the producers of media, the things they're saying about us, is not us yet. It's them. But if they keep pumping it over and over and over, it becomes you. It becomes you. That's why, as Bob Moore pointed out, they'll pay $1 million for 30 seconds in the Super Bowl. Because media influences behavior. So you show the babies shooting at each other with machine guns. It's partially true now because they've been doing this for a while, but it's going to become even more true. The science, they love to talk science, another religion. They like to talk religion science only. Science shows, there's an experiment they did with kindergarten kids. They took them and they gave them some toys. And the kids played with the toys and played with them. Then they stopped them and they put a video on, a movie. They showed them a movie of the kids taking those, of other kids taking those toys and bopping each other, bopping each other in the head and stuff. What do you think happened when they turned the movie off and they gave the kids the same toys they'd been playing with? They began bopping each other in the head with it. Do you remember when all of a sudden you used to see, when I was a kid, we would go bang, 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 we'd play with cap guns, and then you got to see kids and they started going, holding their hand to the side and shooting like that? That came after Minister Society. When that young man runs out there and comes in, the kids. So these things that they're doing to us, it's in their minds, but if we don't do something to counteract it, to combat it, it becomes our reality.
Right.
We need CMOTAP to be strong. This is not an appeal for money. We could do with just the bodies, just the people that were willing to go and confront. We went down there to Netflix. We went out in front, and this is, and we had a certain amount of people, and then once those people came there, the people who worked at Netflix came out, and they started taking the literature, because we had written an open letter describing all this stuff. We've now written 3 open letters. I'll tell you our last one, and I'm gonna let you go. I think I've been talking long enough. I hope that you got something out of what I said. But I'm going to tell you that this last open letter we sent was to the commissioner of the NBA. We sent it to the commissioner of the NBA Silver because there's several points we would make. Number one, how is it that a person using the A-bomb of insults, pays $50,000. Y'all were talking about Kyrie having paid $500,000. He didn't pay it, okay. But you have the owner of the team voluntarily giving the team's money, $500,000, to, some reports said the ADL, he said the causes fighting hate. Well, come to find out, and this is in our letter, that Cy is one of the founders of the, I think it's called the Asian Pacific Island Foundation. I'm sorry that I don't have the exact name here with me. He's one of the founders of it. He was assisted by who? Greenblatt from where? The ADL. You look and you see they have almost interlocking directorates. That the new head of that is on the board, it's a woman, she's on the board of the ADL because although she's Asian, she belongs to one of the synagogues, okay? And you have, so wait a minute, you're gonna take the money that presumably you got from the fans and you're gonna give it to your co-founder? Talking about you fighting hate? They're just using you as a means. There's only one game in town financially, and that is to take the funds, public funds, and transfer them into private hands, or to take funds of poor people from one place that they belong to another place, to the super rich and to the power elite.
That's correct.
That's the only game in town. The prisons almost aren't even to lock up the people. They're for the contracts. They're for the jobs for the poor people, poor whites upstate. They're for the people that make the fruit cocktail, that make the toilet paper. It's for the vendors. The education department is not for your kids. It's for the people that make the cream cheese and jelly. I don't think it's still making those sandwiches it's for the vendors. You're talking about billions of dollars. And here we have, it's not about hate, it's about transferring wealth. I think that they thought better of it, because initially they were saying that Kyrie was going to have to pay $500,000. And then they said he volunteered to pay $500,000. I'm going to stop there. I'm just going to say that the cartoonist, Seth MacFarlane, that in an article in New Yorker magazine, I'm pretty sure it's New Yorker magazine, they had an article called 10 Facts about Seth MacFarlane, an article called 10 Facts about Seth, based on some of the stuff he had said. And one of the things he said was that his mother had once masturbated a dog. I mean, if a person's going to say that about their mother, then you know they're going to say stuff about us. So he makes all of these cartoons, which they call edgy, and these edgy cartoons will have things like a person in a Klan suit, a person intimidating a black man. They'll have the police having beaten the stew out of a black man. He had one with Harriet Tubman, an image that's supposed to be Harriet Tubman, dressed like Aunt Jemima, with a naked white woman wrapped around her. And they described that, they said that's Gwyneth Paltrow doing Harriet Tubman. There's levels of that I could explain. I'm not even going to go into that. But I'm going to say, this is who you're dealing with. And in that article, he also attributes the humor to his largely Jewish staff. I don't know the ethnic humor to his largely Jewish staff. Now, I don't know if it's the same staff, is the staff for this Good Times thing. Why wouldn't they be? You use the same. So, if I have to just kind of finish, I'll say I'm open to questions. Protect our image, brothers and sisters. It's very, very important. If you don't know how important it is, look at other communities. You've got that Asian community with that foundation I just told you about. Again, millions. You got the ADL, millions. Other people think that it's important for them to protect their image and to make us the toilet for their most vile and base fantasies, thoughts, and wishes. talking again from Sick Man Freud. We're the toilet for them. And unless you enjoy being a toilet, fight back. If you want to fight back, immediately, we have another meeting of the Tap Netflix War Committee. The next place we're going is going to be down to the basketball games. Because Seth MacFarlane, a black basketball player, is one of the executive producers. Oh boy, thank you, I'm sorry. Seth MacFarlane is the white, thank you so much, brother. Seth MacFarlane is the white, person who creates these pithy cartoons. But it's Steph Curry, a black basketball player, ostensibly black basketball player, is an executive producer of this film. We can't do anything to Norman Lear. We have to leave that for the little man with the tail and the red suit down on the ground, because Norman Lear died since producing this. When you turn the mic off, I'm going to say that he rests in, but I'm not going to. And I got two different things I'll say. Okay, so enough of that. That's it, brothers and sisters.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, give Dr. Mac a great big hand.
Let me ask you this. I'm going to tell you what happened. I forgot I was supposed to be here today. I was asleep, and brother, I'm so glad you called me, but because I had to jump up and zip over here. So ordinarily, I got posters with some of these things, and I got slides.
He'll be back, don't worry.
Some of them you have to see. They got, this one. They got one, which is a little girl, a little black girl, her first menses, okay? And they have, and they take and they make fun of this. I have a picture of that slide of her laying there on the bed, like the most gruesome thing has happened, and they have it, this is vile stuff. You're the toilet. You're the toilet. When they want to show something and they don't want to show it about themselves, they show you doing it. And they say that there's a dream sequence in there where she's flinging the period blood at her classmates. So they don't do these vile things for themselves. They use you as a toilet.
And they label it as art.
Label it, that's right. Power's ability to define reality and have others respond to it as if it were their own great notice.
Okay,
Done.
the first question is going to be from the Zoom audience. Does anybody from the Zoom want to ask Dr. Mack a question? Anybody from the Zoom? Okay. From the floor. Anybody from the floor wants to ask?
I got a quick question. Has there been any response in any way from the NBA?
Well, that's a good question. And I'm going to tell you that they have not written us back. They have not called us. So our first letter was to the black clergy. A second letter was to the black clergy. We're showing them how, you're supposed to represent the morality. You're supposed to represent, this is what you say you're about. You say you're about morality, you're about, okay, this is what this cartoon did. This is what this cartoon did with your image of the divine. Take your choice, white one or the black one. They did it to your images of the divine. Okay. Can you write a letter against it? Can you do something? Can you tell your congregation? Okay, that was our second letter. Our first letter was to the CEO. No response. Our last letter has been to we just put it out. It was to the commissioner of the NBA, saying like, how are you going to let them just transfer money to their own organizations, and how are you going to, and why so much money for what I consider basically to be small, a tweet, in comparison to somebody using your atom bomb of insults, all right? And we haven't heard from any of them. However, the other day, in fact, I guess it was night before last, when I turned on my television, understand, Netflix was on my screen, the word Netflix in red. I could not get it off. I turned it off, I unplugged it, I did everything possible. And underneath, you could hear the local news, which is what you're supposed to see when you turn on this particular cable. You hear Channel 12. So that made me happy. You know why? Because there's a saying, sometimes erroneously attributed to Mahatma Gandhi. First they ignore you, then they ridicule you, then they fight you, then you win. Okay? So we know we've at least gotten to ridicule or fight. I don't know if we ridicule or fight, but we're going to win because we're not going to stop. Now understand, their stock has gone up. Their subscriptions, there's some things to say the subscriptions have been going down, but the subscriptions, a lot of that has been because they raise prices and do stuff like that. So we're not winning on those terms. We're winning because we are resisting, because we're not taking that, because we're defending our image. And that brings us together to understand that we've got to produce our own media. We've got to stop paying for our own degradation. We've got to support our artists that are doing the things we want and boycott those that won't stop using the N-word, won't stop telling our young people to kill each other, that sort of thing. We're going to win the war. This particular thing, they got lots and lots of bucks, and they got lots and lots of people who want to see that film. So, you know, but we have a meeting this Saturday. If anybody's interested in that, text or call 347-907-0629. Do that tomorrow, and we will give you the meeting number, and it's a Zoom meeting, the Zoom meeting ID number, so on and so forth. One way that you know I have forgotten that I'm supposed to be here today is because I try to announce the Mackey History Club on my show, and I didn't announce it this week because I kind of forgot. I told you, I asked my doctor about that, and he told me don't worry about it because it's going to get worse. Okay?
Doc.
Yes, sir.
I know that Netflix, I know they're raising the First Amendment, a freedom of expression, but there's a limit to that. When it comes to something that's offensive, defend the moral and the decency of society, especially a particular.
They said that in response to what they did to Kyrie? Oh, no. They said that in response to them being able to say. They want the First Amendment for them, not for Kyrie, not for Kanye. For them. I'm kidding when I say they did. I know they didn't do that in support of Kyrie.
Yeah.
They did that.
When these things are depicted, when they depict a certain image of a people which is not true,
Yes.
even out of what they so the art is distasteful.
Yes.
So that right there should be should be a First Amendment.
Exception. It may not be.
Where it's not protected in that degree, in that respect.
Yes, sir. Well, I mean, I don't think that probably the court cases will support what you say. Morally, on the moral, ethical level, certainly you shouldn't be able to do those kinds of things. They have the right to do those things, but do we have to pay for it? Do we as a people have to pay for our own
We shouldn't have to
degradation?
see that. It shouldn't even be projected on the screen.
Listen, you're preaching to the choir, brother.
Right,
You're preaching to the
that's
choir.
equivalent violence.
You're preaching to the choir. And
So
if
we
it
should-
can't be shown on the screen, then
we should-
Kyrie should be able to tweet whatever he wants. And Kanye should be able to say whatever he wants. If that's the basis of
It's
it.
offensive to the morals or the decency of society.
Well, brother, I said it was an if-then proposition.
And it
I
is
said-
offensive.
No, I said it was an if-then. I didn't say that it was or it was. I said if though, it's okay to say anything that you want about us, then it should be okay for us to say anything we want about anybody else. But it ain't that way. They don't play that way. They play your side of the board and their side of the board at the same time.
When we get into that,
Huh?
when we get into that, we're gonna allow that to continue to happen.
You gotta fight it. You gotta fight it. You
Again,
wanna fight it,
they
join
want
the
to
single.
denigrate us and look at us that, that we're not worthy to be paid attention to. And that's constant, if that's our position, then that's going to be an okay green light.
Brother, like I said before, on the moral ethical level, I absolutely agree with you. And power allows you to enforce that. What we have to do is get power. We have to have power. We have to figure out the ways of utilizing the power we have and get more power. We got to unite and we have to value ourselves and we have to value our image.
Value ourselves and value what?
Our image. In other words, how these things are not local here. Understand that this is no, I know, I'm saying these cartoons will be shown in China. These cartoons will be shown in the Philippines. These cartoons will be shown in France and in England. And that's why somebody talking about the Asian coming up, what's happening, my nigga? Okay? Because they see it on the TV, they think that that's how you're supposed to be. They'll think that that's how our fathers feel about our children. They'll feel that the baby, that's why they'll be scared when they see the first black person. People come from 7,000 miles away with only one word in English that they know. And that word starts with a big N. Okay?
Hi.
Years ago, there was an incident where a very prominent Japanese family, a group, came into a hotel in Midtown Manhattan, and at the same time, some young rappers who had money enough to stay in that hotel, and I'm sure you remember.
No.
They came to the same hotel, and the Japanese group got scared, literally like yelling, because they saw a group of them walking up towards them, and so all the plainclothes police officers accosted and arrested the black youth. And so when they asked the Japanese, they were trying to rob you, all right? The Japanese said no. They weren't trying to rob us. And they said, well, what happened? He said, we just saw them, and the images we saw, that they were thugs.
Like
so we thought we was in danger.
Yes.
And that's based on image.
I hope everybody heard what Mike said, but that's exactly, one of the consequences of this distorted media. This is why people clutch their pocketbooks.
And this was their first time in America, by the way.
Yes, sir.
So they went by the image that they saw on Japanese television.
When I've seen the movie The Yakuza and all that, you see the people with the tattoos all over, I'm sure if I went to Japan and I saw a couple of cats coming like that, I would think that they meant me some harm, because that's the image that has been projected to me. Yes, sir. Yes, brother. How you doing?
Are you familiar with another black animation series called Boondocks?
Yes, I am. I'm familiar with it, but I've never seen an episode.
So Boondocks does exactly what Netflix does. It's what I'm saying is what's shown and what we're talking about as far as how this gets out to the world. It shows us in a special way.
Yes.
Then I'm going to add, and I want your opinion on what The Simpsons presents to the world. Because here's a white family,
Right.
in my opinion, who are completely dysfunctional.
Yes.
But for some reason, The Simpsons is highly respected worldwide.
Okay.
Comparatively, what is your opinion, and how would you equate the two?
I'm glad you asked that question. That's a good question. Okay, look. Every time they create a biological weapon, all right, you have to have an antidote. Otherwise, you kill your own people. The ideal biological weapon that a person could produce would be one that hurts your enemy, but doesn't hurt you. All right? So if they had something that would attack only very concentrated melanin and wouldn't do anything to people that didn't have, that didn't have melanin, that'd be an ideal biological weapon to use against black people, right? Well, the same thing psychologically. You have psychological structures. You have a personality. You have a background. You have a set of circumstances, a certain set of economic circumstances. So I could play the same music, do it till you're satisfied, and I could play that in a place where the person has they have an intact family with 2 parents, a dog named Spot, and a cat named Puff, and a white picket fence, so on and so forth, and you won't see any harm that happens to that girl. I can take a black child whose parents, whose father's in jail, whose mother's on drugs, who's not getting the love, who they had no lap time because of the birth order of the children, so on and so forth. I mean, this is just an example. And I can play the same thing, and that will cause that little girl to, that music can cause that little girl to go out and get pregnant. I can play the same music, you know, that's encouraging people to violence in a place where you have alternatives to violence. You got other ways you can prove your manhood. You got, you know, you have schools that are, you know, everything is in a context. So you could, I mean, I doubt if The Simpsons is exact, although even in The Simpsons, the images, that image of Harriet Tubman comes, I believe, out of that one. Either that one or Family Guy, one of those two. And I don't, didn't they have a black voice with Isaac Hayes or something in the background?
They had Barack Obama, they had stacks of black folk on that show. And amazingly, before an incident occurs, newsworthy incident, it'll be on The Simpsons maybe a year before.
That one I can't explain, but what I will tell you is that that you can show the same media to different groups, and one group will have more of a vulnerability to it. Okay, and then also, even though they have different vulnerabilities, even without different vulnerabilities, the power dynamic on the outside is in reality is different. So as you're showing these a movie or whatever it is like that, it affects them less because they got, you know, in other words, they have the
Yeah, Brother Walter, I hear you. Okay, yeah, that's better. That's better.
Yeah, can I?
Absolutely. Okay, Brother Mike has something to say. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I would like to buttress your point by just saying that, now I've never seen the Boondocks or the Simpsons. I've never seen those things.
McIntosh.
I'll repeat his question when he finishes. Go ahead, Brother Mike is asking a question.
I've never seen the Boondocks or the Simpsons.
He said he's never seen the Boondocks or the Simpsons.
But the fact that it shows some white pathologies and sickness and things that are negative in the white community, it's not overwhelming at all because the balance white people.
I'm just going to repeat. He says that the fact that it shows.
No, they got it.
Oh, they got it.
Okay, Mike.
Because what it does is that you got balance. You watch The Simpsons at 9 o'clock. At 9:30, there's a movie that involves a white doctor and a lawyer or a preacher. So they have more than enough balance. The image, as you obviously know, the image with black people is so tilted in one direction that a young person would tell you, growing up in Harlem like I was as a little kid, that I wanted to be Nicky Bum. You know, because I looked up to people like that.
Right.
And the same way other kids now in Queens look up to Fat Cat and Supreme and all these cats.
Which you wouldn't do if which you wouldn't have had if they had sent you to summer programs at Yale for young people, and you knew you had a scholarship coming to you to go to medical school and all that type of thing. You know, it's going to be very different from somebody who, you know, doesn't have an education. The differences. There's differences in vulnerability, and as you point out, there's differences in context. You know, like one little thing that they say, one show about white people doesn't destroy all of the other shows in which they've shown themselves as heroes. And then the last point I make is that susceptibilities. You know, that your socioeconomic circumstances can cause you to be more vulnerable to a piece of psychological warfare than another person. Yes.
I have another question.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, brother, you had a question? Let's
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry, brother.
You said something about producing content about
Yes.
And I'm a writer, director, filmmaker. And I want to know if you have any projects that you would like developed, and do you have any guidelines for Black artists to follow in order to sort of balance out the things that is corrupting us?
Okay, brother, like sometimes because a person is speaking about it, it seems like they may know a whole lot of things. I would have to say to you that that's not my area of expertise. But what I would recommend, what is helpful for everybody, whatever profession you're in, you got to steep yourself in your history and your culture, and then you will be able to do that in that way. Like Amos Wilson steeped himself in a knowledge of Marcus Garvey. He deliberately tried to create a psychology based on the teachings of Marcus Garvey, and then he did that in his profession. And you can do that in films. You know, you have to do it. There are people who, are in that area and would know enough to kind of give you some guidance or something in that. I'm not one of them.
That's fair.
So, Professor, you're not trying to implement something to the community that would show other images?
Yes, absolutely.
You just
always
try
produced. I'm answering you. Yes, absolutely. From the very beginning, CMOTAP, we have had several cable TV shows. Once we had a show on Paragon Cable in Manhattan. We had another show that Brother Kamau was putting on that had all of our programs that we had. Even the lectures and stuff that we have, where we bring in historians, we bring in artists, we bring in various people, those are our cultural productions. We always have had a newsletter. We started with a newsletter, then we had a newspaper. With this thing, I've created a short on the if I had brought my equipment with us, we've been able to see it. It's an 18-minute short that shows you all of the offenses that I showed you, and ends with a particularly lewd sequence of a black man styled as an ape. In other words, I told you the template they use, and they show the profile. In the profile, you definitely see that it's an ape profile. And he's doing it, he's having sex with a black woman, doggy style, and slapping the butt. This is in the look at the Netflix trailer and you'll see it. So we've had to produce media, and social media, but I'm not a movie maker. You know what I mean? This brother is a film, producer, so on and so forth, and I don't have any expertise.
Well, even introducing current, like people that we know in the sciences and education that can stimulate the youth and let them know, hey, we're doing things, we have been doing things, that's where they built a lot of what they have today. On people that in the past and the present, and we know them that's currently here, that they still, and they keep hidden away from us, and we hear about them from time. We don't hear about them on some of the awards events that be going on, the Essence Award, BET.
Those things are totally core.
We need to show these people that exist now and have existed in the past in some way, shape, or form.
Well, when we say we, remember there's several parts of we. I'm dancing as fast as I can.
Not we. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm dancing as fast as I can. Yeah. I want to say something. I want to say thank you to all of you guys that came here today, or whatever it is. I mean, and I really appreciate you coming out here.
We can't
share this with me. You can't put food. Okay, at least the brother's honest. I appreciate it.
I wanted to know if you were in part somewhat responsible for. There was a depiction of the National Basketball Association series maybe a couple years ago. And of course,
should have been dribble.
We'll do better than that. It's primarily comprised of black men, obviously, in real, right? It's been that way for a while. There were commercials that came on, public service announcements, showing the fight against HIV. And in this commercial were two black men kissing.
Always.
Now, my question to you is, as a psychologist, there's never two white men kissing.
I already answered this question.
Okay.
I already answered this question. Remember when I told you that sick man Freud said that the dreams are wish fulfillment? Movies, white cultural productions, this is a microscope into their mind. This is the stuff. They're telling you what they want. No, what they don't want is they don't want you fighting them. They don't want you destroying their genetic pool, because the only way they can exist is to have an intact genetic pool, mating pool. If their mating pool gets tampered with, they disappear, because your genes are dominant with respect to skin color.
Right.
So the things they don't want is you doing that to their mating pool. Certain times they want it, but this time they don't want it. And they don't want you producing warriors that fight them for these material things out here, that fight for your resources, that fight. They don't want to project that image of a black warrior. They don't want to do that. They want to project that image, those images that you say you keep seeing.
And to add on to what, the reason I was asking you that is because they took those commercials off.
Yeah, lots of people protest
if you had something to do with it.
I can't claim you to do. I mean, certainly I criticized it, but I can't say that, you can't say what, well, that's cool, but I don't claim that. Claim no easy victories. Okay? Yeah.
Who else? Anybody? Get Lady V?
Okay.
She was out. One thing about her, see, the thing is like to sit here and we talk, this is a beautiful thing. But now, what happens, you got to come up with, I don't tell you to do what I say to do, but you got to do something.
Right.
If you really oppose these images, don't tell me, well, I don't believe in demonstrating, okay? Because you say, I don't believe in demonstrating, okay, that's cool. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Do something.
Absolutely.
Do something. So, but I can say about Nikki, Nikki was out with us on the street when we went to Netflix.
Doc?
Yes, give her a round of applause too.
Yeah,
I just want to make a comment just for Brother McIntosh's sayings. We allowed myself and a brother from Detroit, Imhotep, when we discussed.
Yes.
He allowed us to come on the radio, and the brother and I, for half an hour, briefly discussed Africa and what Africa meant to the Europeans and Africa meant to China. We opened with that. And we indicated that Africa supplies to Europe and to China 8 things: oil, gas, wood, and coal. The other 4 things that Africa supplies to Europe and China is food, fertilizer, minerals, and uranium. And then Brother Imhotep completed the discussion. Part of that program, this is, people are listening. The lectures that we're doing on the Sahel Nation, they listen. And those Sahel countries want, we have made contact, and they want the African community to help participate in what they're doing. 2 other things. Because of what the Sahel countries are doing, because of what the 3 Sahel countries are doing, made it cool, we're restructuring, they're making changes. Those changes, the French government is stating They're having trouble in, according to them, Africa, with the coups and stuff, is because of Pan-Africanism and the positive image of Africa. The French have a school, has a school of economic warfare. They're all looking at, they're talking about what is happening in Africa. And that French school of economic warfare says the problem that they're having with the Africans is because of their concept of Pan-Africanism. So when he's talking about images, this is very, very powerful, because remember, they know, the Africans know, we have told them, the war that France and the US are waging against Africa, they equally are waging the same war against you here. The image, to destroy your image as, these not Pan-African people, these not people. Very, very powerful. And I want to just ask the group to analyze a position that I was part of. My wife and I, years ago, 10 years ago, whenever it was, went to Hunter College Auditorium, WBAI. 98% white. Me, my wife and I, and a few other people. So this is what I'm asking them to think about. Michael Moore was on stage with Cornel West. And Michael Moore said to Cornel West, I'm going to show you, this is something for you to think about. I'm going to show you how we white people view you. And Cornel West said, okay. I'm going to ask a question only for white people in the audience to answer. This is their question. Why do we white people find it necessary to mistreat black people in America? 2-3 minutes. What was the response? He had to ask the question the second time. Why do we white people find it necessary to mistreat black people in America? Well, he looks at Cornel West. They look at each other. He said, I'm going to answer the third time. Why do we white people find it necessary to mistreat black people? So nobody would answer. So Michael Moore said, this is America. This is who you will live and work with. The sickness and racism is deep, and they reinforce it. So I'm asking the question, what is your response? Do you think this negativity of us is an accident? They do it all over. This is a two-front war. They know Africa is coming. And then the African Union has 5 divisions: North, South, East, West, and Central. And the African Union has created a 6th division called a diaspora. And in that diaspora, they say, all Africans living outside of Africa, we, African Union, consider you in the diaspora. So the African Union is saying every one of us, they including us, and inviting us and saying, they put out the thing, we need the African diaspora to help with the fight on the continent. And you have to factor that in. When you see that sudden attack, this intensive attack on you, they're trying to degrade you because the African Union is asking you, and they got 2 front wars going here. So this thing is more than this pathology that they hate niggas, they hate black people. So there's a connection there. Because if the Africans see what he's talking about, they might say, we don't want to be involved with Africans here.
They do that now.
No, wait now. That's what the point that I'm making is that show that we did, that half-an-hour show, those African countries contacted us because of what they heard. Part of that on his show. So when you have positive things, it magnifies. If they're suddenly making a tremendous effort, you think it's coming out of nowhere? It's not. But so I would like someone to comment about why white people hate black people. And this is global. They know that there are African groups here, all over. They know how we feel. It's dormant, and they don't want you to begin to get proud about what you can do for yourself in Africa.
Hold up.
Do they answer this question in TV?
Dr. Mack is going to answer the question.
Well, I mean, I think we all can participate, but I will definitely, if he wants me to start, I want to say that I thought I addressed it before when I said they don't want you to fight for your resources. They don't want you to fight for your resources. They want you. I mean, that's one thing. Francis, what you see, everybody is saying the same thing. They're just saying it on different levels, or they just talk about a different aspect of it. You know, there's a story about the man that came across an object in the forest, right? It was three blind men, and one said, it's like a wall. And the other said, no, it's like a snake. And the other said, no, it's like those Roman columns, and, you know, and they'd come across an elephant, each one looking at a different part. So when we talk about the fact that they don't want you to, see, they want us, okay, there's a field called sociobiology in which they look at why people and organisms and people do things. And one thing that's common to all, they want to reproduce their own genetic makeup. That's from an amoeba on up. Everybody wants to. So white people do want to reproduce themselves. Culturally, they acquire, they conquest, they take. When they look at a problem, they look at it from the standpoint, if you're saying, if you look at it from a standpoint of like diminishing resources, they don't think of giving up the 80% of the resources that they're using. They think of you not reproducing so much. They think of birth control. In other words, they see the world, they feel they're supposed to have everything, they feel they're supposed to own everything, and they try to do it and they try to make it. So it's about, on this psychological reasons for which Frances Wilson, you can go to her and read to see, what's operating there. But at the end of the day, they want all the resources. They want your stuff. They want your stuff, and they want anything of you that they think is good. So that even your history, when Dr. Ben takes you back and shows you the things that you did in ancient, now they come, they go, they didn't really do that. We Arabs did that. That's one of the things that I had a brother on the show before. But since your show, I hope I answered you. You did. I just want to let everybody know they heard that show with others, and they contacted us the next week. So they the world, from the world and these African countries, asked for the other brother that you had on, and they even indicated to us that there are a number of your Pan-Africanists, names I will, who are working for the French and those countries. Want people you know. Okay? Well,
these people understand this. You can't hide on this one. They know. They said to us.
I just want to say one other thing. I had several shows on the same topic we were talking about. I had Molefi Asante come and do a sitrep on Africa, and basically he had to hit the Sahel region. I had a brother from the Congo, one of the Congo groups to come, resistance groups to come and talk about that. And I think, as I said before, we're saying the same thing. I mean, we can look at it from the standpoint, if you just look at it right on the surface, they want your stuff. That's why they want your stuff. And even on a genetic level, they want your stuff. They would like to be able to produce melanin. They would like to be able to produce your woman's body. They would like to be able to produce your man's body. They want those, and in each of the little fields, they work on doing those things. You know, all of this cloning and all of yeah.
So, Dr.
Yeah, just want to say for the record, just in case there's anybody here on the Zoom audience that might not be aware of it, that CEMOTAP is a multifaceted organization. It does not only deal with purely images that are negative to our people. It fights on all fronts. It's one of the only organizations I know that have literally helped everybody at one time or another. Whether you are in entertainment, broadcasting, whether you are an activist or what have you, some of our best have fallen on hard times. And when that happened, it was CEMOTAP that were there to help them. And I think that's just incredible that some of our people that have fought the good fight, when they fall on hard times, you know, who do you turn to? Do you turn to an organization, a church? You know, what type of civic organization do you go to ask for redress, especially if you fight white folks? And CEMOTAP has answered the call so many times, and I came late, but I'm sure Dr. Mack did mention that. And it bears to be mentioned that CEMOTAP, led by Dr. Mack and Sister Betty Dobson and so many other wonderful people that are nameless, that do so much. And that's just so important to know that there's a landing spot for those that fall on hard times. And I remember, and I'll just say in the John White case, in the John White situation, we in 100 Blacks were looking for a way to get John White out of jail. And I called, when I thought about it, I called Dr. Mack first. I don't even know if Dr. Mack remembers that. But I called, that was the first person I called. I said, this is one of the sharpest brothers that I know. And I said to him, brother, how do you get somebody out of jail where white folks got them dead to rights? They got the charge on them. The charge is not accurate, but...
Mike's talking about a black man who defended his family when a mob came. A mob,
night riding terrorists came to his house,
rape his wife and kill his son.
Right.
And he came out and he tried to drive them away. They tried to grab his gun and he ended up shooting one of them and
killed him. It was a legal gun,
legal.
And he just had the gun to make them back up off his property. That's all his interest was, to obviously keep them out of the house, but secondly, to make them remove themselves from his property. And when he turned his back, they tried to grab the gun. You know, the guy thought he was Moses Powell and thought he could take the gun out of his hand. I know you're all familiar with Jackie Chan, so for y'all that don't know who Moses Powell is, the guy thought it was Jackie Chan. Maybe that's more comfortable than some of you. So he tried, and he shot himself. John White didn't shoot him, he shot himself. And I just want to always let people know that a seminal role was played by CEMOTAP in that situation, because they always look at 100 Blacks, but we were not alone. We had help from the United African Movement, from CEMOTAP and others, a lot of concerned people who might not belong to organizations, but when Dr. Mack said, I can't get him out of jail. I don't have a strategy to get him out of jail, but we can assist his family in some fundraising because we know the family got bills. And it was a wonderful job. It was awesome what Tech was able to raise money for John White. So a person who really wasn't an activist, he was just a regular, ordinary guy, a deacon in his church, a God-fearing man who found himself in a situation that none of us want to be in. And Tech was at the front of the line to help him. So with that, please everybody give Tech a hand.
And I want to thank Brother Mike for that. I want to say we don't want to get away from, thank you, Brother Mike, I appreciate that. And I'm going to relay that to Betty, the acknowledgement that you gave. Praise is due to the Creator. What I'll say is that Dr. Lewis, this is, I won't call him one of my barbers because we're too close in age, but this is one of my teachers and like my big brother. And so he put a question on the floor that like people will address it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, brother, this wasn't, I'm just saying, I just want to bring us back. I appreciate it. We appreciate that and everything. And I guess it is related. It's definitely related, but the sister had her hand up for a while, so let's let her. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. McIntosh. It's always a pleasure to see you and this is a good presentation. And I worked with you for a short period of time.
At Kingsborough,
and I started working with the criminal justice system on the floor, right?
Yes.
And a lot of them were mandated to treatment by the drug officer, some of the drug dealers and stuff, right? And one of the questions I used to, they were very smart, right? So I used to tell them, if y'all can sell drugs, you know business, right?
Yeah.
You know
transferable skills.
You know when they make the drugs strong, you know when they make it weak, you know when they get their check, you know what I'm saying? You know the check that, right? And you have your money coming. So why don't y'all go to school, go get you a pair of khakis and a pair of $10 speakers at the Salvation Army, and be poor for a while and learn how to be a professional criminal, professional drug dealers. They got professional drug dealers that make money. And another question I used to ask them when I was doing groups and stuff, tell me one thing you wish you would have gotten as a child that you didn't get, right? They say, I would have more love. I wish they didn't want to spring on me. I wish they would hug me. It was never material stuff that they wanted growing up. It was never material. Spend more time. And then I asked them why they disrespect the elders so much. Why do y'all so disrespectful? Why do y'all respect the elders anymore? And they said because my father was the line drugs for me. Not that was their father, but it was an older man. And they disrespect them. Go give me a $10 bill. I don't want no dollars. I don't want no cheese. Go to the day and give me a $10 bill. Totally disrespect. So I don't think she had that. And I worked with you because when I started working there, then you left.
Not because of you, sis. Okay. I said not because of you, sis.
But when I seen you, I think I was at a training someplace you had when you was working at another hospital, and I seen you and I told you they hired me, and you said I never gonna hire you.
But that, yes.
You said something earlier that was interesting.
Yeah, I want to answer. I want to relate to
Dr. Lewis's question. We're trying to get people.
Okay.
You're tired. Okay.
I'll answer this question. Black people don't hate white people don't hate black people. White people don't think black people are inferior. Dr. Clark said it best. White people want things from black people and they don't want to pay for it. And they created this illusion and delusion of supremacy so they can take it. They know full well who they're up against. They've read the books. Varney, even in the 17th century, wrote chapter and verse. It was Thomas Jefferson's. It was Thomas Jefferson's homeboy. Jefferson knew the greatness of African people. He knew the greatness of the people he enslaved here. So it's clear that they are running a hustle that we now believe exists. They want, like you said, they want everything that we got, and the only way to get it is to create a negative narrative so they can do it. And that's the clearest explanation I could give you for the question they refuse to ask, because they will never answer a question on whiteness ever. They never have, they never will, they never did.
Just make a quick note.
Yes, sir.
I give it mainly the credit for you when you allow us to the program. We, I'm going to use the word we, in the African community have, as a result of that, already made contact with one of the missions. And we're going to make contact with the other two very shortly. And what they're asking us to do, and we'll give you the information, is to help them in the media, the positive image, to get the message out. They're fighting the image. They can fight, they got the guns and stuff. But that's what they're asking us to do. And we will bring you more information, but the point I wanted to emphasize is certain lecture we did, but specifically the power of the media of being on this program. They listen, and the embassies have contacted us, and that's what they need. They want us to help in what he's doing. That media.
Thank you for saying that, brother. I want to make you aware of something also. First of all, you can come on anytime you want to. If you have a top, I can't do the same show every week, but I find ways to to move it around. But there's a case right now that I think is very important. That's the case of Yeshitela and the African Socialist Party, and I think it's relevant to what you just said. What they have them for, they have a law that if you work on behalf of a foreign national, like a foreign, especially a government official, then they call you a foreign agent, all right? And you have to register. And if you don't register as a foreign agent, they basically try to make it look like he's a spy or something. This brother been fighting. He was in SNCC. He was, you don't have to agree with the ideology. It's about survival. If they can come, they came to his house. They broke the door down. His wife was nearly hit in the head with a drone as she came down the steps. Now they accused him of being agents of the Soviets. They would accuse you of being an agent for a person, which I'm just making say, be aware of it, that these are some of the little tricks that they use, and that we do need to, as a community, respond to what's happening to Yeshitela, even if you have a different ideology, because they don't stop with just one group. They don't stop. It's not his being a socialist that is a problem for them. It's resisting what America is doing all around the world, at home and abroad. Resisting what they're doing. They don't, any bit of it, they can't take. Khalid can talk to a little audience with certainly less than 500 people, probably less than 200 people. And they had to censor him on the floor of the Senate, because that's how powerful truth is. They don't want those kinds of truths out. But at the same time, Baraka has a poem. In fact, rather than tell it to you now, I'm going to read it to you before I leave. It's very short. So I'll leave it at that. But it basically says, this stuff, you can't just leave it on the theoretical and ideological level. You can't leave it on the academic level. This has real bearing on your behind. Okay, you're dealing with very, very, I saw this movie, I think it was a Dance Hall Queen, and then somebody insulted the woman, the woman guy, and she told her man he was bad, and he said, he's gonna go and go get this. When he goes to go get this guy, he found out this guy is like a gangster, like the Corleone, but down in the Caribbean. And so when he comes back, he says, this is the part, I'm sorry, I get real upset, but I have to, because that's the way my brain is. So he came back, And she said, did you do? He said, no, we're gonna have to go slow on this. She said, I found out that this is a wicked mountain. And that's what we're dealing with in the United States. The United States is wicked. You don't know half of the stuff that they do. You don't know a tenth of the stuff that they do. You don't know 1,000th of the stuff that they do. And you got to be aware that the slightest thing, a foreign national contacted me and asked me, could I work on, that's all that makes, I'm saying, with this brother, all he did was go to a conference, you know, and they're trying to do that to him. So on the 31st, they're asking people to come down to St. Petersburg, Florida, and on the 3rd of September, that's when the trial begins. If we don't, as a community, resist this lynching, then we're going to be the next one lynched. It's a simple
Speaking of lynching.
One point.
Yes.
Let me just,
Yes.
yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize. Foreign Agent Registration Act. That's the act.
Yes.
The thing is, as long as you've given history, you're not working for anybody. As long as you've given the history, you're not working for anybody.
He said he wasn't working for anybody either.
I'm just telling you.
That's what you
trumped up charges.
brother's 83 years old. It's trumped up, but they can trump up the charges. You know what I'm trying to say? So I do think it's important to say not working for anybody, and that's why I wanted you to clarify that sentence
Yeah,
when you said that they contacted you. and
What
told
we're
you.
saying is that the African Union has a division called the diaspora. They want any and everybody in the diaspora living outside. Any help they can get or assistance. It's a general thing.
And we should give it.
Okay, that's what we're saying here.
And we should give it. And the thing is that okay, it's the truth that's the real problem for people. Yes.
I wanted to say that we have to give honor to
when we win.
today's birthday is Fred Hampton, the spirit of Fred Hampton is no longer here. I wanted to mention that, make sure we know this is Black August. I also wanted to say Netanyahu did there's a video of Netanyahu when he says that he wants to get rid of the dark people, dark continent, and so forth, right? Yet, now he did this in 2015. He said that he needs to eradicate, he got together, he had a conference with the European leaders to get rid of the Muslims out of Africa.
Out of where?
Africa. 40% of the people that are in Africa are Muslim. So when he's saying this, he's trying to get rid of all of us. You understand? You deal with one set before you go to the others. So this disagreements, little petty arguments, you better focus on what's really coming down the pipe. And it's already been 9 years.
Yeah, real quick.
You got an interesting thing that you said earlier also concerning Seth MacFarlane's mother having some interest in a dog.
Say what?
You had said something earlier about Seth MacFarlane, the producer.
Right.
His mom
Had masturbated the dog.
Right.
They say that he said that. You know?
Right. Are you familiar with the dog situation on Family Guy?
No.
Okay. The dog situation on Family Guy is the dog goes out and dates women and has sexual interactions with women, outside the house, inside the house, whatever. Is that a reflection of?
It's exactly what we talked about before. See, the person tells you what's in their mind. When somebody takes pen to paper or film, goes to film and they start telling you a story, whatever it is, you just need to know the real history to see what those things mean. But they're telling you the stuff that's in their mind. Those are the kind of thoughts that dominate his mind. Twisted, sick thoughts dominate his mind.
So it may not have been one incident with that.
I don't know, man. I can't, I wasn't there. I told you, I can't tell you about stuff.
Yeah, because on that Netflix the sister, you said you were what type of hair, it was dreads, and they show an episode, she got bees or flies flying around her. Another negative image is dope.
Thank you, brother. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that.
You see, it's crazy. And then the older son, he's on psychotropic medications. So he has a bipolar condition.
They have the teacher, when he failed the 10th grade 3 times. They have him, the mother goes to this is in the trailer. See, I haven't seen the film. There's no reason for me to look at the film if all of this is in the 5-minute trailer. The mother goes to the school and asks what she can do for her son, you know, and the teacher is shown, the teacher has a pack of cigarettes in her mouth. She's drinking from a flask, you know, alcohol from a flask, and she says, does he do, I can't remember the things, all fans or something like that, but what it is a porn, OnlyFans, but it's a porn site where people produce their own porn. So it's like in other words, like a clearinghouse for it. You can put your stuff up there and people will pay you if they like the pictures or whatever it is that you put up. And then she says to the mother, she says to a black mother about her child, let me see his feet so I can see what he's working with. All right? Okay, then after she says that and the mother don't lay her flat out, this shows you, you know what I'm trying to say, the mind. But they're not talking about us, they're talking about them. They're using us as the toilet to flush all that stuff out. But it's them, this is the stuff that's in their mind, not in our minds. Not yet. But if they keep pumping it to you, they create appetites. And they end up creating the thing, they create the monster that they have projected onto the film, or the thing that they have projected. I just went to BAM this last week. They had The Spook Who Sat by the Door, and they talked about how that movie was banned, or how that movie was suppressed. Right. Because I told you, they know that media affects behavior, and they do not want to show that somebody getting the gangs to start really fighting their real enemy, as opposed to their own community. They didn't want to, and they had the daughters of the brother who wrote it. What's the brother? Sam Greener, yeah. And they had the daughter of another person who was in the film. And they talked about the suppression of this film. And so they remastered it, and it came out as well. The place was packed. And most of the people in there had never seen the movie before. Most of the people never seen the movie before.
In psychology, you said it's self-fulfilling prophecy. And psychology is called self-fulfilling prophecy. You tell a lie long enough, and not enough people start to believe it.
Goebbels now, okay.
And it's behavior modification. So that's what's happening. But what I wanted to talk about was
you got to make a point there. You said behavior. That's right. Your reality, this media is so realistic now. To before, the only reality you encountered was the stuff that you saw. Somebody could tell you a story, but you never saw a person saw it in half. But now in this media, you can see a person saw it in half. You can see a person do all kinds of stuff that you don't have in your outside experience, but you've experienced it so viscerally by watching it in the movies. You've seen a couple of 100,000 murders by the time you finish high school. Kids have seen a whole lot of murders before they even start school. And see, before, if you're in a village, you don't see murders, but your children are being fed an appetite of murders, an appetite of war, an appetite of, when I was a kid, that driving that spike in Dracula's heart was about the most, please, that stuff pales to the stuff they show kids now on TV. I told you, they show people getting sawed in half. I saw they showed the person, they were pulling pieces off the person with pliers and all this type of stuff. They show torture scenes. So they're creating the way that I forgot to tell you before, but I told you the story about they showed the kids the video. They said there was 3 things that it did. They showed the kids, they gave the kids some toys, let them play with it. Then they showed them a video of other kids playing with those toys, but instead of playing with it, they were bopping each other in the head. They would turn the film off, they go back to these preschoolers and these young kids, and the kids now take the toys that they've been playing with peacefully, start bopping each other in the head. They said, violent media, one, teaches new ways to do violence. That's one of the things it taught. It inures them to the violence. It makes them where they're not, like they're not bothered by it. And then lastly, it disinhibits them from doing it and actually doing it. But I looked at it and I applied it to the way that they do this media with black people. And I said, there's a fourth thing it does. It teaches victim identification. Because when the film stopped, the kids didn't take the toys and bop the teacher with it. They bopped the ones that they saw in the movie. They bopped the other kids doing it. So when they show they're very careful with not showing black people do sensible violence to whites. If they show black people, it'll be something, and now the rest of the show is them going to track the guy down. But sensible violence, black people defending themselves, black people defending themselves successfully, collectively without it. If they show that, they got to have a white savior. And they also got to have something. That movie Rosewood, did you ever see that? What was the worst scene in that for you?
Look, it was too many to mention. But if I had to isolate one,
yes,
it was the way people were kind of comfortable with the store owner raping that little girl on a daily basis.
Okay.
If y'all remember that scene, he was raping her, and it was actually the father or the uncle that came by there and told him that that's it, and told her right in front of him to get out of the store.
Okay.
Because his manhood was on the line once he knew this guy was raping his niece or
Yeah, that's good. I want to tell you on the psychological level, for us, what I thought was the worst thing.
Okay, but that's the other part?
Yes.
Is that the rapist was the hero. That's what I wanted to mention. The rapist ended up being the hero in the movie.
And you can't make this stuff up. You can't make it up. And the thing is that was one thing, but here's another one. The guy who is the hero, the African who resists, that one, he has to be aided by a white savior. And then, as these desperate men are running for the train, they have him kick him off the train and keep him from getting on the train because this rapist is telling him that the engine can't stand it, so on and so forth. Now, see, you would say, well, the engine couldn't stand it. No. Somebody wrote that.
Right.
They could have made the engine where it would take them. They chose to write that way. They chose to write that for you to save, to be a hero, you gotta throw some other black people, you gotta kick them, and send them to their deaths. These things, like I said before, when I look at these things, I study them. I'm looking at them like studying them. Yeah. Anyway, listen, I've been talking a long time and I didn't come here to put you all to sleep or bore you. I thank you for having me here.
Dr. Matt.
Yes, sir.
The Mike guy, was that Mike's diner on Flatbush or Maple?
Okay, I'm gonna cut this
No,
thing.
Mike. Oh, Mike.
Mike.
Oh, I don't know Mike's